Welcome to Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon. I'm your host, Captain Matt. Today, we're talking de-winterization. Hey, it's warm out. The sun's coming out. Summer's almost here. Let's get ready. And what does it take to get your boat ready for the season? So hopefully, if you're in an area that freezes, you winterize your boat. You put that pink stuff in it. You followed all the right procedures of other YouTube videos on winterization. Maybe you watched ours on some things to consider. What do you do? Well, as far as the pink stuff goes, it's biodegradable. It's fine just to put it in the water and crank it up and go. There's more to it, though, to make sure that your season gets started on the right foot. But the pink stuff, easy. Just go ahead and flush it out of your freshwater tanks, put new in, flush it through, and the engine, hey, put it in the water and get going. But I'm going to recommend you do some things to make sure that the winter didn't cause some damage or there was something that you didn't get to in the end of the season that you'll want to get done so that your season goes smoothly. The first is to check your gear lube. Did some moisture get into the gear lube over the winter, or did you have some in from the previous season if you didn't check it or change your gear lube in the early part of the season? All you do, take a big flat screwdriver and you can crack that nut on the bottom of your gear casing. Maybe you have to pull the prop and it drains from there, depending on the boat you have, but just give it a crack and look for any milky kind of consistency, a kind of a milky brown color, maybe frothy, but that's going to be an indication that there's moisture in that gear lube. You want to drain that out, maybe even change your gear lube if it's really bad, and then check for leaks. Make sure you don't have a seal that needs to be replaced, a prop shaft seal or some other seal that you need to address. That's number one. Next is check the oil level. Check all your fluids. This is from the Boater Bootcamp, a free program that we have for newer boaters to cover the things that you don't know about your boat. But checking your oil, follow the procedures of your owner's manual, because some engines require that, especially outboards, that you tilt it and you have it at a certain level when you check it, and that you run it through a range of motions before you check, so you're checking the accurate level and not overfilling. It's an issue that several Yamahas specifically have, that you've got to follow those inspections. But check that oil. Make sure you're at the right levels. Make sure it's clean. Smell it. Does it smell, have a weird funky smell to it? Maybe you got fuel in there, or is there moisture? Is it that milky substance or streaks in the oil? That would be an indication of water. Next, we have your battery. One of the big things that over the wintertime, the cold weather especially, can cause some issues. Hopefully you followed our recommendations and you put it on a trickle charger and you kept that thing nice and charged up. You kept it off the cement, out of the boat. Clean off those terminals. Get any corrosion. Take a wire brush. Clean it all up. Any rust, clean that up. If you've got a battery switch or some kind of post terminals on your boat, get those nuts all tightened up, cleaned up, making sure that there's no connection issues, corrosion issues, rust issues, and then make sure that your battery has a good solid charge. If your battery's out of the boat, take it to an AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts and have them do a load test on it, especially have a couple years on it, to make sure you know that battery's holding a good charge, is going to get you through the season. Check all of the systems on your boat. Get that battery in there, get it on. Check your horn, check your bilge pump, check your blower. This is from the Boater Bootcamp as well, where we talk through all the systems, what they do, how to inspect them, and things like that. But just go through, turn on all the switches, your navigation, your anchor light. There are some, like your live well pumps, that you may not be able to check out of the water, but check everything that you can, including the steering and the shifter. If you're not easy access to the water, hey, put it on the earmuffs. Get your hose out, turn it on full blast with one of these earmuff attachments on it. Make sure it's cupping around the water intake completely. You want to make sure you're getting good water flow to it, and crank that boat up on the earmuffs, on the water hose, so that you can make sure everything fires up. Listen to it. If you have a stern drive, open that compartment and make sure all the freeze plugs got back in properly, that there's not water pouring in somewhere. And just listen to it, let it get up to temperature, make sure everything is sounding good. Check the fluid coming out, the water coming out of the pee hole on an outboard, coming out of the exhaust bellows on the back of the stern drive on your inboard outboards. Make sure that impeller is picking up water good, and that you've got a nice flow, and that it's going to crank up the first time you put it in the water. Don't forget your trailer. Hey, the tires, especially in the wintertime, they're sitting there for 3, 6, 7 months, and they're not moving. Hopefully you jacked it up. Hopefully you did something to take the pressure off, but they can dry rot. They can get flat spots. They can lose air. You need to grease your hubs. You need to check your winch strap. You need to check your rollers and your bunks. Check the age of the tires. Check everything, the lights, all of those things. Check it before your first outing, because you certainly don't want to have a blowout on your first trip to the water, and it can be a nightmare. Much easier to fix when you're getting ready. Caulk. Hey, this may be a cosmetic in many areas of the boat. You can scrape off the old, put in new, make it look real nice, but there's also some areas where it's keeping moisture, it's keeping water out of the transom, actually from getting inside the boat and in the bilge. Places that you want to check for sure are on your transom. Anywhere there's a through hull fitting or something that's been drilled into the transom, make sure that it's not old and cracked and brittle like this. You may need to scrape it out and reapply new around anything on the transom, depth finders, brackets on fiberglass boats. And you also want to check under the rub rail. So they fit the boats together, top to the bottom, deck to the hull, and that joint may be caulked. Some manufacturers have a bigger gap than others and have more caulk than others, but you want to check that and make sure that it hasn't shrunk up and dried up and give an open spot for water to flow in and get in your boat. Then give your boat a bath. Give it a nice coat of wax. Have it looking great for the season. Get that UV protector on there. Get that shine back so that it can hold up to the elements and look good and have a good resale value, and also your pride of ownership. It looks sharp. Now, on a fiberglass, you're going to wax it, and maybe you need to compound it, but to get that good coat of wax on it and have that hull shined up bright. If you've got an aluminum boat, hey, just give it a good wash. If you want to polish it, you can. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's not going to last for a long time, but get that boat looking good, get it perfectly clean, and get that protector on the outside and on the seats, especially the UV protector. Check your registration. Hey, if your registration renews in the wintertime, you may have forgotten it, you may not think about it, but check your sticker, check your registration cards on the boat and on the trailer. Make sure all of that is up to date so your first time out isn't a run-in with the law or the Coast Guard. Check your bellows and shift cable bellows, exhaust bellows if you have a stern drive. Make sure that those are all still soft and supple, no dry rot, no cracking. They can lead to major problems, and keep those in good shape and inspect those before you go out. Don't forget the safety equipment. Is your fire extinguisher charged up? Are your flares good to go on the dates and not expired? Is your EPIRB good to go, and you can test it in the testing period that the U.S. Coast Guard has? Does anybody on the boat need a new life jacket? My daughter's went from 87 pounds to now 93 pounds is my youngest. She needs a new vest. She's over the limit on her little kid's vest. It's time to move to an adult small. Your first aid kit, replenish it. Get the new Band-Aids in, the gauze, the wraps, the ointments, the lotions, and the potions. Get all that stuff in there, so if you need it, you got it. Throw out the old moldy stuff that is no longer useful. If you have a boat with a cabin, your carbon monoxide detector. One, change the batteries if you need to, and test it. These units can go bad in about 7 to 8 years is kind of their lifespan, and sometimes the units need to be replaced. So hit that button, listen for that god-awful sound, because it could save your life. Don't discount this. It's very, very important. Your fuel water separator. Now, this is again from the Boater Bootcamp. We talk about how the fuel water separator works, along with a bunch of other stuff in that, but you may want to run your first tank of fuel and then change out your fuel water separator over the winter. Maybe some moisture got into the fuel tank by the expansion, the heating and cooling throughout the off season. So run that first tank through and then change your fuel water separator. It's a $20, $30, maybe at the most $50 part, easy to do yourself, and it'll keep your fuel good, feeding your engine, which means your engine is going to treat you much better. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a share. If you're buying a boat, grab the toolkit. We talked about the Boater Bootcamp, totally free. If you're a boat owner and you're newer, go and check it out. You're going to be blown away by the information. I promise you'll learn something. And if you're struggling with operating your boat, you might want to check out the Best Boat Captain on the Water program. Remember, life truly is better on a boat.